Tommy, is there a particular camp battle that you're intrigued by heading into Oxnard?
There's a couple.
Okay.
I'm excited to see what the second running back situation looks like.
Hmm.
That's certainly one. Do they go for change of pace with Jaden Blue? They've certainly been talking him up a bunch this offseason. Or do they kind of stick with the bruiser, more physical kind of Phil Maffa look where, you have the pros and cons for both sides, right? With Blue, you get to change of pace. He's faster. That's different. You change up what the defense is looking for. With Maffa, you get the same thing, but you're just going to continue to wear down a defense. Um,
Right.
so that's going to be interesting, and who can gain the trust, really. A lot of people, I think, view Blue as the leader in the clubhouse in that, and I would probably agree at this point, but I think he's going to have to earn the trust in the terms of holding on to the football and ball security because that's been such a huge problem for him over the course of his career in college and even in the NFL. I think I don't remember what game it was he had the fumble this past year, but that's certainly something that is going to be paramount for him if he wants to, secure that second running back spot. Backup quarterback is going to be an interesting one. I think I've only been covering this team since 2024, but I think sometimes that becomes an afterthought, especially when you had Cooper Rush here for so long, and you knew like, okay, God forbid something happens to Dak, Cooper Rush can manage the game for you.
Hmm.
I wonder how much of that would even be close to the same with either Joe Milton or Sam Howell. I think Howell is obviously more of the Cooper Rush type of guy to where, okay, hey, this guy is probably not going to take games over and be the X factor and the reason why you win them, but he can get the ball down the field. He's got great receivers and he can make it work. Joe Milton's kind of that wild card in the sense of like he's got all the tools. He's a freak show athlete. He's got maybe the best arm in the NFL, and there's so many traits that you just fall in love with. But some of the easy stuff, it could take some time, and he's just got to continue to develop. So obviously, you never hope that Dak goes down. He's so much fun to watch, and he's great at what he does. But given the injury history, it's happened before. So if you need to bank on someone, who do you bank on? That decision, I think, is going to be important. And then defensively, that corner rotation is just going to be fascinating. I wonder
Hmm.
where they look to make a move in at some point, whether it be free agency or whatever it may be. They add there. This pass rush, I mean, you guys kind of touched on it a little bit. It's a relatively young group, and that can be a blessing and a curse a little bit because you want these young guys to blossom and get as many reps as they can so they can grow. And I think pass rush now you kind of win as a unit, but you still got to kind of have that top guy. And
Hmm.
right now it's for Sean Gary, and that's a solid pick. I think he's a solid player. I'm not going to say he's a star or he's a superstar, but he's a solid player. Um, can one of Malachi Lawrence and Donovan Ezeiraku grow into a budding star and have that? I know we throw the term out of time, but breakout year that makes you kind of say, okay, we can work with this. Um, so yeah, that's a long-winded answer, but there's a lot of camp battles and camp kind of movement up and down the depth chart that's going to be really interesting to look for.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you mentioned, sorry, Nick, you mentioned Ezeraku, and there's a lot of reasons to be excited about. I know he's dealing with a hip injury. We all thought he'd come in as a rookie and not necessarily light it up, but maybe get more sacks than he did. But he was on a horrible defense, right? Guys playing 10, 12 yards off the ball in a secondary, and no time for the pass rush to get home. But he was the second or the third, he had the third most pressures of all rookie edges in the NFL. So he was successful, right, a lot of times, and surprisingly good against the run. And so there's a reason to think perhaps with a little more help around him, maybe he can have one of those breakout type seasons and get close to 10 sacks. And there's not going to be a guy, I don't think, on this team that gets you 12 to 15 sacks, but you need several guys to get you in that 6 to 10 sack range, right, as a rotation. And do they have enough of those guys? James Houston, we kind of forget about him a lot. I don't know. Ezeraku, Malachi Lawrence, rookie edges don't typically really get a bunch of sacks. Gary's more of a cleanup guy and
Sam
high
Williams
motor guy.
season? Sam Williams season load there.
There's a guy out there that's his name's been floating around, a little Von Miller, but I think got a little cold water, little Jane cold water thrown on it today, so maybe not. He's an older guy, but I think 150, 200 snaps as just a pass rush guy, I think it's worth kicking the tires on as an idea. But I don't know if they have a guy. I think this DC is going to be called upon to really scheme some stuff up in the pass rush department. Is my guess for the season.
Well, if you're going to scheme stuff up, you better be able to cover. And that's where Christian Parker's background as a DB's coach is going to have to come through. Because if you need to rely on coverage sacks, then you've got to have good corners. You've got to have good safety play. And I feel much more comfortable about the safety room than I do about the corner room.
Big facts.
So that's another reason where if that's what you're banking on, and I'm not saying that's what they are banking on, or you're banking on making sure all your guys are on the same page and you disguise those looks so you confuse quarterbacks and buy that extra half second to a second to let your guys get home, then great. But I got to see it first if we're going to believe that it's just like that.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's also, a little lost in the sauce at times. You look at 2022 where Quinnen Williams goes and has 12 sacks from the defensive tackle position. And how does, he's a guy that can provide pass rush from the defensive tackle, obviously not the edge group. But what do they scheme for that? We know about the gap and a half and what you're going to do there. But how can Parker at times unleash him in the pass to let him go hunt the quarterback as well, depending on down and distance, all those things. But he's a guy, I think, at times when we talk about, we're talking about rush, and we just kind of automatically go to your edges and ends and where that is. But he's a guy, too, that can absolutely provide some of that pass rush from the interior for sure. Will be interesting to see. The chats over here, Von Miller. Okay, well, Von Miller, for instance. Okay, 9 sacks, 36 years old. Obviously, he's from Texas. Not a 3-down edge anymore. But do you really need that right now? No. Would he be a guy that can come in here and be a pass rush specialist, give you 10 snaps a game, maybe, just saying, just throwing it out there, maybe a little bit more, and be in the room to help Ezeiraku and Malachi Lawrence. I think it's going to be cost effective, I would imagine, too. That's something I wouldn't be necessarily against. Tommy, he put himself in the jersey, and Des posted the picture with him, and he's got the Paul Wall playing, maybe a little campaign wink, if you will, from him. Is that an avenue, though, that you would think, okay, Von Miller will make some sense for them at a certain point? Maybe not out at the beginning of camp, but would that make sense for the Cowboys from the edge group and what they have stacked in there right now?
If they get to some point in camp and be like, yeah, we need some help in our pass rush department, I don't know if it wouldn't shock me if they kick the tires on that. He's going to be, 37 this next year, I think it is?
Yes, sir. Yep, 36 currently.
He's getting up there. But, as a rotational guy last year, he led the team in sacks. And now,
9 sacks.
Granted, let's also remember what the Commanders
they were bad, too. Yeah.
Standpoint. So I don't know how much of a feat that is. But look, if you're getting a guy that gets the job done, and they feel like is a scheme fit, because that's another thing that you've got to consider. Otherwise, Jadeveon Clowney would probably be sitting here. So, are they going to be comfortable with that, and is it going to be able to work? If you've got a guy like that that's going to be a Hall of Famer one day that can mentor some of your young guys, that's never a bad thing to have. At the end of the day, it's just going to come down to, will it make sense? And I don't think there's an answer for that right now, which is probably why you don't see a ton of true buzz surrounding that being a potential at this moment. Plus, the Cowboys roster is full, so they would have to
make a cut, right?
They'd have to make a move in order to bring him on, and probably clear some cap space too. I don't know the exact cap number, but
I know we're 31st. It's not a lot, like $4 million, something like that. Yeah, not a lot.
Yeah, and you got to carry some of that into the season for your in-season signing guys and practice squads and so on and so forth.
They could free up about $20 million by next Wednesday if they so wanted to, but not.
Yeah, you could.
They come down the pipeline.
I highly doubt they're going to. But look, you said it was a quiet off season. I've seen crazier things. Maybe after July 15th, I'll be like, okay, it's a little bit quieter. But until then, and actually, now, you know what? I'm just never saying it's going to be quiet. It's the always happens. So I'm just waiting for the next thing to come across my desk.
Yeah, well, creating rules here. I do want to go back to the running back. Do you think, Dak has a pretty looming cap number coming down the line here? Is there any way that we would see something with Dak or a Q? What about Q? Right? I mean, they got to get something done with Quinnen Williams soon. Would that be a way they might look at and do something before camp with Q?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, they've signed those long-term deals at camp pretty frequently. If
Hmm.
somebody's going to get another one, I would guess it's probably Quinnen Williams, just because Jeffrey Simmons got his payday. I think he's making
Right.
11 million a year more than Williams is, and so Williams has 2 years left on his deal, so they could wait.
Right.
If they want to see like a full season of him in the defense and whatever it may be. But if they say to themselves, look, we know this guy's going to be kind of a center point for us going forward, then I would not be shocked if this offseason we see him getting an extension. But and that's not there's no smoke there, and I haven't heard
Right.
anything about that. I'm just talking straight logistics. I think that would make sense to get done now before this defensive tackle market and every position market starts to grow over the next couple of years.
Right. And he's what, 20? He's 28. And so he's probably just now entering his peak, which is crazy to say because he's been so damn good. But he's probably between now and the age 30, probably going to enter his peak. And how long does he stay at that peak? Who knows? Freaks tend to stay at that peak longer than other guys, and he's definitely a freak of nature, in a good way. And so it makes a ton of sense to pay him now, knowing you're going to have him probably for the next 4 or 5 seasons. Just get it done. I know the Cowboys don't always do that from a proactive standpoint. Oftentimes they wait, which is one of the criticisms a lot of people have of the front office. But if it makes sense, if there's one guy, like you said, it's got to be Q. It's got to be Q. And then, continue building out from there, like they've been doing all off season.
And again, it would probably be a 3-year deal, I would think, because by the time that
Right.
deal would come
3-year
up,
extension.
Yeah,
if
right.
they do add 3 on, I think he would be 33. So I would think that's the
Right.
same deal that Simmons got, and they're the same age. So I would think it's something along those lines in terms of length. And I'm not entirely familiar with what kind of length they're comfortable with in terms of those contracts. I know they typically want those shorter deals so they can decide. So maybe that does give them incentive to get it done this year, and they lock themselves up for the next. That would make it 5 years. So I would say that's probably the most likely if we do see one.
Indeed.
100%. I want to bridge to another position group we didn't mention is the tight ends.
But let me ask this question about running back real quick before we go there, Dilly, and then we'll
Sure.
get to the tight ends. Typically, we do the 2 carry, right? The 2. Do you think there's a space where they would look at this thing and decide to carry 3, or do you think it's going to be the 2 no matter what?
3 plus Lipke or
Lipke's H-back tight end, whatever. No, I'm talking. Yeah, Williams plus 2 other guys they'll actually hand the ball to, which I don't know why they'll hand the ball more to Lipke anyways, but I digress.
Maybe I would kind of lean right now towards there only being 2, but
Mm,
there's a lot of time between now and cut day. And
right.
if they go through camp and say, man, we might need as much help as we can get, then it wouldn't shock me if they carry a third.
I mean, if Blue can give you some things in the return game somewhere, maybe or whatnot, because he has to do something. I know Shotty said return and gunner. I don't think Blue's going to play gunner on punt personally, but I'm just kind of thinking in that realm. And I mean, Malik Davis is hanging around, and Ben Nakonda too, for what it's worth. And Malik Davis is kind of the guy like, hey, you ain't getting rid of me. But look, I know they want them to walk. They got the draft picks invested, obviously, into Blue and Maffa. And look, I don't think we would look at Blue change the pace spec. Would you really claim number 2 to what Williams brings and what Shotty on record? I like big backs for what it's worth. I just wonder. We just haven't seen it in forever. Just would they say, look, Maffa's going to be number 2. And he's going to give us special team work. We understand that from Maffa, and then we would have our change of pace as well and go 3. Does that mean that Lipke would not be here, as you brought up, Billy? Right, that's a conversation I had with the extension, and they absolutely love what he does. And he does so many different things that wear so many different hats. I don't think they would move off from Lipke, but again, would they go light at wide receiver and carry 5 to get a third? I don't know. I just something to me. I just look at with the competition where it is, would they discuss it and think about it. So appreciate it, Tommy.
That's why, I brought up Maffa too in that conversation, is because he gives you more special teams value probably. And they didn't really get you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but they didn't really get Javonte very involved in the passing game last year. There was not a lot of running back looks in the passing game. And when you look back at Jaden Blue's time at Texas, some of his best work came in the passing game when he would go on those crazy wheel routes that Steve Sarkisian would draw up for him, and he's somehow wide open. It was less, not saying he didn't do this at all, but it was less between the tackles, ground and pound, kind of what we saw from Clayton Adams and Brian Schottenheimer last year. So that's why I think you would see maybe Phil Maffa fitting that mold a little bit more. But I also do know that, sometimes you just want to take advantage of that different pace. And when you have speed like that, speed wins. And
Man,
Blue certainly has it when he gets into open space.
appreciate it. I'm out the way now. You can get to the side. I just want to circle back to that real quick.
Well, and that all kind of goes together. There's a way to tie that in too, because we talked about some of these tight ends, and I think Schoonmaker might be drawing close to the end of his time here in Dallas. If I had to guess, he's probably the most likely cut candidate out of that group of people who got playing time last year. But I think that our guy Spanford probably going to be tight end too, is my prediction. And I just wonder, because great run blocker, and we got to hope that he evolves in the pass game. Obviously a huge red zone threat, giant human being. And I just wonder if the Cowboys, because they're going to run a ton of 11 personnel. I don't see, the league's going towards 12 personnel a bunch, and I don't see the Cowboys following that trend with the weapons they have on the outside with Flournoy evolving and all that. I wonder if Spanford will start to cut into Ferguson's play time. Not that Ferguson's going to get benched or not be tight end one, but I wonder how much they value that run blocking presence and with what they're trying to do paired with the weapons they already have on the outside. And that kind of ties into the running back and who they want at, running back. You want power, you want power, speed. It all kind of ties together. And my question for you, Tommy, is when we look at this tight end group, obviously you got Trigg as well. They brought in. That's going to be kind of a long shot, I think, to make the roster. He's got to really prove himself, but obviously a playmaker in school. Who do you think, or who are you excited about, I should say, for this tight end group in Oxnard, and who do you think might jump out and take the tight end 2 and 3 spot?
I think the excitement is there for Spanford. I think that, man, if he had reliable hands, he would be so good.
Yeah.
He'd be so good. Schoonmaker's an interesting one. He is certainly, I don't think, lived up to the second round billing from that 2023 class. He does give you some work on special teams, though. I wonder if that gives him the edge over Michael Trigg or a DJ Rogers or Princeton Fant or anybody who's kind of fighting for that spot. I would say tight end 2. I would still lean Spanford, but I don't know if tight end 3 would still not be Schoonmaker. I just think that he can make sense in certain spots. Now, if they're saying, all right, we can probably save ourselves some money here, then maybe one of those UDFAs. But I still think at this point in time, at least, that he is on the roster still. I don't know if he gets as much of the offensive snaps. You mentioned 12 personnel. What interests me is if the Cowboys do that, because eventually they will. Everybody does everything.
Mm-hmm.
You can still work Ferguson in the passing game out of 12 if you line up Spanford as one of those inline blockers and you offset Ferguson with him. And you can run the ball out of that. You can throw the ball out of that. You can be versatile in what you do out of 12 with both of those guys on the field, more so than a Ferguson Schoonmaker combination. Schoonmaker's an okay blocker, but I think Spanford takes the cake there. So if he's tight end 2, I think you could really see some fun stuff in 12 with those receivers that you have, plus the threat of the tight end. And we've seen how involved Jake Ferguson can be in the offense. It's just a matter of, can he hold on to the football and not have the fumble issues.
Yeah, is Spanford a better run blocker than Jake Ferguson is pass catcher?
I would say it's close, but I've seen Ferguson come down with some really tough catches. I've seen him come down with those Dak Prescott special seam passes where he's getting just obliterated in the middle of the field, and he's come down with some of those. Are his hands perfect? No. But I think he's a plus catcher, and Spanford is a plus block. I could go either way on that, but I would give the lead to Ferguson a little bit.
Yeah, it's like Schoon was taken in the 4th or 5th round. The conversation would be different about him, I think, obviously. But he finds a way to hang around, though, no matter what. And that's kind of where it is. Look, Trig's path to this team, and I'm looking at the chat and I see you guys Trig over Schoon, and I understand it. There's been a lot of people trying to run Schoon out of here for a while now. But I think ultimately it boils down to special teams, as you mentioned, Tommy, about Schoon and what he brings there. Look, Trig can do the catching and everything he did there. And granted, like, he got the big package as an undrafted free agent tight end, just as Spanford did. Spanford's abandoned the roster. But if he's not going to play special teams, that's the path for him. If he's not playing special teams, he's not going to make the roster. He's going to play special teams at the same kind of clip that Schoon is. And that's even if they're going to look at Spanford as the 2, right? Because we talked about it last year, and I think a lot of people thought Spanford got more snaps than he did. I think when they did the breakdown, it was like 70% for Ferg. It was around like just under 50% for Schoon, and then Spanford came in around 16, 17% there. But we saw a lot of him in the red zone because of the blocking, right? Sending him in motion on the move, getting that blocking done for them, trying to get things done. And to the hand point, I thought it was always funny because the sounds of the sideline when he had that one touchdown pass, right? The whole sideline's telling you, like, we're like, please don't drop it. Please don't drop it. And that's just kind of where Spanford is a little bit within that. So I think I'm a guy that wants to see Spanford get to the number 2 spot in the tight end room. Sure, it would be exciting for Trig, and if he could do that. I just don't know what's going to happen. I think it's going to be the same room as last year.
Well, the thing with Trig is I could very well change my mind by the end of camp. I mean, if he's
this is going to camp,
out if he's going out of camp and doing like backflips while catching the ball through his legs, yeah,
that's fair.
On the team, because like we've seen some of those highlight plays and stuff, but you know, the highlights will come if you're a good player in the NFL. I feel like, what do you do with the boring stuff? What do you do with the 5-yard out route that Jake Ferguson ran like 876 times last year, where it went for 5 yards on play action? Can you catch that ball? Can you continue to turn upfield? Like, those are the things that I look for with tight ends specifically. Can you block? Can you contribute on special teams if you're getting down on the depth chart? And I don't know a lot of that yet about Trig. We still have yet to see about that. So that's why camp is awesome. And that's why we're out there for a month, so that we can learn a lot about these guys.
With I was just looking it up because you were talking about the snap share and all that with Schoonmaker and Spanford. So Schoonmaker was on the field for 33% of their snaps last season. I do wonder if they like Spanford better. Spanford, I don't have the percentage. It was 300 snaps, and Schoonmaker had 391, so it was about 100 snap differential. I wonder if that 33% increases closer to that 40% mark with Spanford as tight end 2, or if they still kind of run the 11 personnel the same and whatnot, keep Ferguson on the field the same rate. I wonder how that just, it depends how much they like Spanford, I think is I guess what I'm getting at. And I know we all like Spanford, so we want to see him on the field a bunch, but I just wonder how much they like Spanford versus taking off, like a Ryan from Illinois or somebody else.
And year 2 of the process of this offense, right, and the evolution of what they're trying to accomplish when it comes there too, and they've had the conversation about doing more play action from under center. What was that? Is that going to be more in 12 personnel? What is that going to look like as it unfolds as we get there? So yeah, it's going to be. I'm excited for the tight ends as a former tight end. Always, I love tight ends. We talk tight ends the rest of the time for all I care. But yeah, again, I think it's going to be the same room though. Look, and I'm not talking if he's out here doing the backflips between the legs and everything else. Yeah, come on, sign me up. Absolutely.
If he does a backflip and catches the ball between his legs, he should be paid $120 million on the spot.
Yeah.
Well, this is all recorded, obviously, so we got it here. So Tommy was first in the scene. Catch between the legs.
I don't have the money. Somebody does, but I don't have the money.
No, me neither. Uncle Jerry's got it. It's fine.
Cowboys Nation, stand up tall. We'll never let